Welcome to Adventures into the Unknown. My name is Rick, this is Katana, and today we are just south of Phoenix, Arizona on the Gila River Indian Reservation, where we will be exploring Butte Camp, which was a relocation internment camp for Japanese citizens of America during World War II. Now the site has been abandoned for a very long time, but this mysterious structure behind me actually got my attention, so I did a little bit of research and decided it was worth putting boots on the ground. So with that being said, let the adventure begin. Out across the way there are some mountains, and I was actually looking on Google Earth at those mountains and found a couple interesting sites. And when I find something interesting, I typically zoom out, and I saw this structure and a whole bunch of abandoned structures down below. And so I decided it was worth putting boots on the ground and getting out here and exploring this site. Now this structure, after doing a little bit of research, I found out is a memorial to the actual site itself. And I think there used to be a flagpole here with the American flag on it. And then down across the valley here, there were over 800 buildings and thousands of Japanese American citizens were relocated here during World War II. Now back up on this hill here is a big cement slab that I also saw on Google Earth, and after doing some more research, turns out that would have been the water tower for the camp. And one of the issues out here in the Arizona desert is water, and that was an issue even back in the 1940s when this camp was active. They had issues with water and also issues with the wildlife like the rattlesnakes and the scorpions that you find here in the desert. So let's walk up here to the top of where this water tower would have been, and I will include some photos. Got a lizard. So this would have been where the water tower set for the community down below. Those water towers off in the distance are modern. They did not service the camp. Oh wow, you can get down in there. What do you think, Katana? You gonna go down there? I don't think so. Now I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera down there in the valley. There are some cement slabs for buildings. We will actually hike back down there and explore some of those slabs. These would be some of the outer buildings. The main housing buildings, I believe, were back off towards those water towers across the way. I'll also get the drone up and see if we can't get a better overhead view. Alright, let's head on down the hill and check out some of those foundations that were for the buildings for this camp. Alright, not sure what this little building would have been. Looks like a couple other little rooms. We've got an old can here actually. With the and so, not sure what this would have been, but right across the way we have another little room, it looks like. Another little foundation. And it looks like we might have some old, it might be a toilet lid actually. I was going to say ceramic plate, but it's bigger than that. I think that might be an old toilet or toilet lid. So maybe these were bathrooms out here. This is the same exact thing as the one we were just in. Some more old cans. Got Katana sniffing the ground. This looks like an old sardine can. Maybe a kerosene can here. That might have been a kerosene can at one time. So that'd be the top. Maybe an old kerosene can. Some more of that porcelain. And then scattered all throughout here, you'll find these little cement bases. I'm assuming that held up a lot of the buildings. Again, I will post a picture of all the buildings that were out here. They apparently, when they closed the camp, they apparently took apart all the structures and auctioned off the material. I'm sure after the war they were short on material. Here's a pipe coming out of the ground. This was probably one of the barracks. We're sitting on these supports, speculating, given the location of the water tower back up there, looking at the photos from when the site was actually intact, there would have been barracks all the way out across this entire field, essentially. So we're going to keep exploring and see what we can find. Alright, we can see a lot more of those cement bases that more than likely supported the barracks that were out here. Katana smells somebody. Probably a coyote. And over here are some more of the cement bases. Some steps that probably would have led up into the barracks. That would have been supported on these cement bases. You see more steps, some more porcelain. Don't think this is necessarily really old porcelain. Down across the way here, looks like we have some foundations. Katana seems to think she knows where she's going, which she doesn't. We've not been out here before. Somebody's off over there. Alright, here we have another big foundation slab with the tree growing out of it. So this is kind of a L-shaped foundation. Would not have been part of the barracks, probably would have been part of the administration buildings, I think. Another big foundation. Here's a bunch of nails. Boy, if you were to come out here metal detecting, you're going to get a lot of garbage. This ground is covered in nails. Not necessarily old nails, but rusted nails. Another piece of porcelain. Another foundation. It's got a pipe coming up. You can see some square blocks in there, so I'm guessing there was probably a building in that area as well. In between. That's that first L foundation and this foundation. Now we're out here in November, so it's been cold enough we should not see any snakes. Alright, so we've made it out by the water towers, and looking at the foundations over here are actually a little different than what they were on the other side. Again, this area would have been covered in barracks basically all the way back to where we started back there. As I mentioned, we're here in November. We shouldn't see any snakes, but that's a snake skin. Definitely snake skin. No snakes. Shouldn't be. November, they should all be underground in their dens. Now these water tanks were not part of the camp. These are more modern. Much more modern. But we can see a bunch of different foundations over here. Just a big rectangle. And there appears to be another one right over here as well. And I think, yeah, there's another one over here. So there would be these foundations, and I can see one beyond that one. So these foundations probably run all the way as far as you could see that way, off towards those hills. And they'd run as far as you could see that way towards those trees in the far background. That's a road. And that would have been where the fence was. The fence would run all around the backside of these hills and enclose this entire camp. You can even see back over there another foundation. I think they were 2 or 3 deep. There's another one of those rectangle foundations that would have had, I believe, the barracks on them. Again, some more porcelain. And so as we leave this row of foundations, there appears to be another row of foundations back over here. Alright, so that is probably part of a teacup. That is the porcelain I was looking for. That's the nice porcelain. So we have another foundation here, another foundation back over there, and then even deeper they continue to go. Alright, so I think we may be coming to one of the old roads that ran through the camp. Oh, for sure, yeah. This would be an old road that ran through the camp. And then back off there you can see probably the more foundations and what have you. And we got some old cans. Oh wow, here's a nice representation of maybe a plate or a cup. You can see a lip there. Might have been a jar. Yeah, look at that. I think that might have been a jar at one point in time. Pretty cool. Alright, we got an old cola bottle, double cola. And it was bottled here in Phoenix, Arizona. It's got kind of a cool little marking on the top with a brand name. Don't know how old this is. I don't think it's that old, but let me know in the comments if you know. Alright, so even over here we have similar small little foundation with the two little small rooms, and probably a coyote or somebody living back under there. So kind of a mirror image from way back there where we were at the beginning. I think it's a kind of a mirror image over here of the structures that were here. In fact, over here are those square block foundations. So more than likely there'd have been a building sitting on here. And look at that, some old glass. Some really old glass. Old jar. Can't quite read that without my glasses on. Look at this little can. Little stubby can. What do you think, Katana? We seen it? We got another foundation back over here, another one of those small foundations. And we got more glass cans, and then another one of these smaller foundations with the little squares or rectangles, a pipe. Maybe these were showers or bathrooms. Oh, there's a lot more of those over here. There's another one right there. Got some more glass over here. Who'd you see? That's a jackrabbit. You saw a jackrabbit? You see that jackrabbit? He ran off that way. Bunch of glass over here. Kind of neat. Bottle top. Another maybe not so old jar. Not sure if we can make out those numbers once we get back at the computer. Oh, there's a bunch of them. A few of these old jars. I'm not sure what that's, a rim to something. Metal rim. So we've got a bunch of green glass, and right here there's a bottle top broken off in that green. So this probably goes with all that. Pretty cool. Alright, so we've got an old sole of a shoe out here. Somebody lost their soul out here, no doubt. Alright, so it wasn't just adults that were at this camp. That's a little marble. This is a little marble. Look at that. That is an old marble. How do I know? Because I'm actually old, and one of my grandfathers gave me marbles that look like these. That is pretty cool. Okay, so if you decide to come out here, be careful where you're walking, obviously. I don't actually recommend it. There is actually a dead frog in there. That's got water in it, so I'm guessing this is some type of old well. And there is, unfortunately, a dead frog down in there. Or toad, who couldn't get out. Alright, so it's really overgrown out here and you can't really see all the different foundations in a row. So I'm going to get the drone up and see if I can't get a shot of this whole area, and you'll just see the foundations lined up row by row.
Butte Camp at the Gila River War Relocation Center is a significant site in Arizona's history, symbolizing both the hardship and resilience of those falsely incarcerated during World War II. It was located on the Gila River Indian Reservation in Pinal County, about 50 miles south of Phoenix and 3 miles north of the Saccatone Mountains, and covered about 790 acres. Butte Camp operated from 1942 until November 10, 1945, and was the larger of the two camps at the relocation center, the other being Canal Camp, located 3.5 miles away. The camp had 821 buildings, mostly residential barracks, with utilities and public facilities run largely by the internees themselves. The site was at one point the fourth largest city in Arizona, with more than 13,000 internees. One of the internees was Noriyuki Pat Morita, who became an American actor known for his roles on Happy Days as Arnold and later in The Karate Kid as Mr. Miyagi. After the camp closed, many structures were auctioned off, and archaeological studies have uncovered remnants such as medical facilities, trash dumps, pet graves, and irrigation features. Today, the site remains marked by ruins and historical monuments and forms an important part of the history of Japanese-American internment during World War II. All right, I think that is going to wrap it up for today's adventure. Thank you for joining us as we explored the story of Butte Camp. If you found this video insightful, please spike the like and shoot subscribe for future adventures. Also, share your thoughts or questions in the comments below. Until next time, seek and enjoy.